everybody. My name is Aaron Mesh. I'm the managing editor. It's a pleasure to have both of you here. I will tell you that the goal of this interview for the next half an hour or so is to get to know both of you a little bit and decide who it is that we're going to endorse. That may mean that we don't give you equal time. It might mean that we spend more time talking to you than to you, or vice versa, depending on who we have more questions for. That doesn't necessarily indicate who we're going to endorse. It just means that's how it goes. If you have things you'd like to say to your opponent, that's perfectly fine. It's a free-flowing conversation. We would ask that you not interrupt each other and that you remain polite. Having said that, let's get started, and we'd ask the incumbent to go first by telling us just a little bit about the makeup of your district and why you're seeking the office.
Absolutely. So I'm Representative Jules Walters from House District 37, which is Westland and Tualatin, a little bit of Lake Grove, River Grove, and Durham. I'm a mom of 4. I live in Westland. I was served, before I was a state representative, I served as the mayor of Westland and a city councilor in Westland. And that was just this career, switch to being an elected person is really just after years of being a community leader and organizer, and being involved very heavily with my family in different organizations, including youth sports and scouts and all of those things. So this is a beautiful place to live, and HD 37 is an excellent district, and it's been a privilege to serve.
Remind me how many terms you served in the seat?
I'm running for my 2nd term.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ben?
Yeah, and the question was what we're running or what we're saying.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
Yeah, I got into politics in 2020 after losing our businesses in the inner city of Portland. We lost 3 cafes and a coffee roastery. I set out to find the people responsible for the lawlessness and the lockdowns, and I'm still working on it. I found a lot of people responsible, but that's been my mission since 2020. I wanted to organize some political competition with our one-party government here in Oregon, and and what it's done is it's led me into legislative politics. And so I ran against Rob Wagner in our Senate district in 2022. It was a very heavy Democrat district, and now I'm taking on Jules Walters and going for her seat as state rep. And I think it's critically important that Oregon has strong Republican Party so that we can have balance. And we have a very weak Republican Party at the very top, and we have a very corrupt and narcissistic Democrat Party at the very top. And so we need to fix that. So I represent the people, truly do. I truly represent the people, and I got to where I am today because of my leadership, and because I've been fearless, and because I have a large following, and I've activated tens of thousands of Oregonians to participate in the political process.
So Ben, you said before we're on camera that you've been running campaigns, including a campaign for Republican who you were primarying an incumbent
Yep.
in Roseburg. What other elsewhere on the state campaigns have you been involved in?
We've been involved with legislative races in Portland. We've been involved with current ones. We've been involved with races in Southern Oregon and mostly in our area. So some in Washington County, some in Clackamas County.
But all for the legislature?
We did some sheriff very briefly, but yeah, school boards will do, but mostly legislative. Legislative is where we excel.
And have you worked with Greg Walden?
No, never met him.
Because he's also trying to elect Republicans.
Not really.
You mean
he's not trying to elect real Republicans.
People aren't real Republicans.
Yeah, and I don't know Greg Walden. I know he's a big piece of the funding for the legislative infrastructure for the Republican Party. But I just think that the way that this has to work, at least for someone like me or a leader like me, is that I have to just get in there, and then after that, I think we can strengthen the entire infrastructure on the Republican side.
Do you know what the registration breakdown is in this district?
Yeah, I think it's a D20 technically, but the Navs in this district historically have voted to the right. In 2022, I think Jules won by maybe 5,000 votes, something like that. So it's about 8%. I expect it to be closer, but obviously they're doing polls and stuff, so they don't think that it's close. But I think it'd be fairly close. And I think there's things that are going to happen between now and November 5th. They're going to change the outcome of this election.
Can you back up?
Can I just say really quickly, I actually won by 22 points And
Okay,
in this primary in May, I won by 89.9 points.
You won by 89.9 points, like percentages?
Yeah.
So in this last one, you won by 90% of the vote? That's not true. That's not true at all. She won by 5,000 votes. I looked it up 2 weeks ago, just even to confirm.
I'm sorry, are you saying that you
In the
got
primary, I got
Oh, in the primary, yeah.
90% of the votes.
Okay. Could you back up and tell us?
But that means, though, real quick, that means...
No. Nigel, you have-
Oh, okay, go
Can
ahead.
you tell us a little bit more about yourself? How you make your living before this?
Before this,
Yeah.
I made my living in the coffee business as an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur and an organizational leader for probably 25 years. And then, I just figured out how to make money in politics for the last 4 years.
Just looking at your background in the coffee business, looks like you left that business with some unpaid bills.
100% I did, yeah. I told people that, we did our very best to clean everything up, but it was 2020. So, a lot of people didn't pay their bills in 2020. I certainly was one of those.
It's 2024 now. It looks like you still haven't paid them.
Well, yeah, it's a business. It's not my personal bills. And we had the state come in and run lockdowns, which are unprecedented and illegal, if you ask me. And so we had businesses across, that's a weird question to even ask me, but you're right. I didn't pay all my bills. Some I did pay, some I said pound sand. That's exactly what happened. And that's what you do in business. I don't know if you've ever owned a business before or been in business, but that's sometimes what you have to do, especially in an unprecedented situation like lockdowns for the first time in U.S. history.
So your campaign manager from the Wagner race said you didn't pay her also?
No, I did pay her 100% of what she was due. 100%.
She says you didn't.
She says I didn't. I say I did. I paid her 100%. In fact, I put it on.
Fair to say there's a dispute between you and your ex-campaign manager how much money is owed her?
There's a dispute, not in my mind, and not in reality, because on X I posted, because she brought that to the public's attention, and I posted our contract, and I posted her resignation. The dates and everything else were included on that. And when she resigned at the beginning of the month, she then tried to ask me for payment for that full month, and I said no. So that's all on X. You can go look at that yourself. I posted it, so you can go find it yourself. I don't owe her a dime, and she's frankly, I think she's looking for attention.
Okay.
Yeah, but the facts are right there. Now there was a court date because she took me to court, and it was also the Washington County courts at that time were not doing in-person hearings. And so it was all done via Zoom, and I wasn't served properly, and I wasn't notified of the court date properly, and also I was looking for the letter because they said they would send a letter after we did mediation about when the court date would come. I never received that letter. I never received any notification from the court of a court date, and so I never went to the court date. So I never went to court. So she got a default judgment on that issue, and so to me, I just didn't want to get bogged down in suing her and then going back to court over something to show, when I just said, it's public record is what I'm most concerned about. So I put the facts online, and you can see that I handled myself very well in that situation, and I was basically being harassed. So, yeah.
Okay.
Jules,
Yes.
I'm just going back and reading The Good, Bad, and the Awful. And you got kind of middling ratings.
Yes.
And I want to give you a chance to respond. Walters entered the legislature after serving as mayor of West Lynn, where fractious politics belie the bucolic suburb's placid appearance. She served as co-vice chair of the House Committee on Revenue and the Joint Committee on Tax Expenditures. Lobbyists struggled to get a read on her. Quote, "Hello, is anybody in there?" wrote one. "Best poker face ever, or is she a Stepford wife?" And then it says, like many of the representatives whose districts are adjacent to Interstate 205, Walters got engaged around a bill that forced a delay in the Oregon Department of Transportation's plan to toll that highway. And then it talks about the personal experience he brought to bear on one of the most contentious issues of the session. You described what it was like to be the parents of a trans teenager. It was a moment of humanity in the political process I won't soon forget, says one lobbyist. Maybe you can speak to the criticism at the top end.
Well, I did post on Twitter once that, things that, like traditions that happened in the 70s should stay in the 70s. Like this, going to lobbyists and asking them for their opinions. I think it's kind of out of date, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you on Twitter criticized our process for doing this?
I probably shouldn't say that at the beginning of this.
No, that's okay. I appreciate it.
No, it was really, I was just sort of joking. There was other parts about it, but I think, you know, when we work with lobbyists, there's some who support us and work with us regularly and know who we are, and there's others that we don't, because I may not be in the committees that matches their expertise. So it was just an odd thing. I don't consider myself a Stepford wife, and I'm sure my husband would tell you I'm not a Stepford wife. We've been married for 30 years. And I think being focused on the district is part of my job. And the tolling plan, as I mentioned last time I was here, was a flawed plan. And I was able to get it stopped and shelved on the Abernathy Bridge project. There will be no tolling.
So how is ODOT going to get itself out of the deep financial hole that it's in if it doesn't ever toll anything?
That's right. Well, we didn't shut down all of tolling. So some of the tolling projects are still maybe on the book, maybe out there, and need to be worked.
They're out there.
I've been, following the Joint Transportation Committee on their roadshow. I think we have a huge revenue problem in our transportation system, and a revenue problem in general, I would say. But I think as far as transportation funding goes, the Abernathy Bridge tolling was never going to bring us where we need to be. In fact, I think ODOT's current estimates of the amount of money that they need to bring us up just as appropriate service level are low numbers, and I would rather have them come to the table with real numbers so we can solve a real problem.
So what is the revenue path? What's the path to filling that big number?
I know. Well, there's several different things, although you were in Tualatin with me at the chamber when they presented, and Director Strickler was there with Representative McLean. They were talking about currently they just have a stool with one leg, and so now they're going to look at all these other options to create more legs on the stool. Well, there were like 18 different options, and somebody had said, well, I don't want to sit on a 19-legged stool, that's for sure. But there is, there's definitely a need for us to increase our funding for transportation. I really want to see the good numbers from ODOT first. They self-audit every year, but we haven't done an actual external audit of ODOT in a long time. And I think we need to do that so that when we make progress to solve the problem, we know what we're looking at. But those revenue sources that were bounced around, that I'm not sitting here saying I totally agree with this or that, but increased registration fees, increased gas tax, maybe vehicle miles traveled, although they say they don't have the infrastructure to do vehicle miles traveled, although we all go have our cars, they read the odometer when we go in to get our cars registered. So I'm not sure about what they're talking about on that end. And maybe just congestion pricing, if it's done right in certain places, may work. But funding tolling, having a tolling plan with 70% administration costs on one bridge over the Willamette in West Lynn is not going to solve our problems.
So thoughts on transportation funding?
Yeah, I do. I actually work in transportation, so I'm a contractor right now into the Umpqua Public Transportation District, so I'm very aware of some of the issues with transportation. But I'll tell you right now, what Jules said about having a revenue problem, that's pure insanity. We have a $100 billion annual budget. We've got the largest budget in state history. We got one of the largest budgets in any state in the country. Like, to say that we have a revenue problem is like comedy to me. I mean, we have a massive budget. We have a massive taxation. We're one of the worst tax states in the entire country. And it's really, frankly, we got one real city, and it's kind of like silly that we're taxed this much. People obviously don't make enough money to pay the taxes because we're ranked 50th in the distance between becoming middle class and what people actually make in Oregon. And I think that the Democrats and the Republicans, frankly, the Republican leadership is, look, I lump them all together. They're all these bills that are crazy, and all these spending bills are all bipartisan. And one way or another, there's a dumbass Republican that votes along with them to make it bipartisan. But what we need to do is we need to rearrange where we're spending our money, and we need to put a stop to taxation. I was appalled when I was at that round table that they're talking about, charging everybody by the mile, they're putting tolling into I-5. I mean, tolling is going to come to our district. I mean, we already know that's what they're going to do. They're already building. They got big, huge swaths of land that they're bulldozing out just to build the facilities to be able to scan people's tags. And they're also talking about transponders and stuff in vehicles. I mean, this is crazy. We don't want this stuff. You don't want to put a transponder on your vehicle just so you can be like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching by the state. That's crazy. Nobody wants that stuff, okay? We have a 45, or I think it's $38 billion annual budget for the Oregon Health Authority. We've got not enough money for our schools, and transportation is whining over a $450 million budget shortfall this year when they got a $6.8 billion biennium budget. Bunch of whining going on here. The real people that are getting hurt by this are everyday Oregonians, and we need to get our shit together at the legislative level so that we can start spending money not on 501c3s and C4s for the homeless industrial complex, but actually fix our roads and fix our schools. Okay, that's where money needs to go. Right now, all this money is going to private organizations that are funding the very people in power. That money is going out, it's getting laundered and coming right back to them. We need to clean up Salem. We got a bunch of people that are either like Jules, which just rubber stamp the bills they're supposed to stamp, and then we have real, true, corrupt people that are bad people, and they're actually running these bills through, like Rob Wagner and David Brock Smith, and we need to get rid of all of them altogether. This isn't about Republican and Democrat anymore. This isn't a revenue problem. You know it's not a revenue problem. Everybody knows it's not a revenue problem. I mean, for crying out loud, if you go ask any Oregonian right now, does the state of Oregon have a revenue problem? They're going to laugh at you. Individual people have a revenue problem. I have a revenue problem. We got to fix the real revenue problem, and that's with everyday tax-paying Oregonians.
Okay.
Can I respond to that
Of course.
quickly? I think when I'm talking about revenue problem, I'm talking about measures 5 and 50 and all the different laws that came in, or measures that came in between. We don't collect property tax in an equitable way in Oregon, and our cities and our counties are going bankrupt because of it. And so that's where you start seeing extra taxes on here and here and here and here, because we don't have a straightforward revenue system. Now, in order to fix that, Representative Marsh, we had a presentation over Ledge Days by PSU, and they've just done research on what it would take to fix, measures 5 and 50, and fix. And it's so many layers and so many years now that Representative Marsh really called it's like a morass to even begin to try and figure out how to untie it and get our system back together. But that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about revenue reform.
What she's actually talking about, let me answer this please, this is very, very key. What she's actually talking about is the plan for the Democrats to bring, to make it so that there's a state commission that determines what your property taxes are instead of having it being democratically decided at the county level. That's what she's describing, because that's what they're going to do if the Democrats maintain control in the next cycle in 2025. They want to make this a state decision and not a democratic decision.
Are you saying that the clear inequalities that exist in the property tax system today are fine? They shouldn't, where you can have...
What's the inequality in the tax system? Local people that live in a county vote to increase their taxes.
For a second, I'll tell you what the problem is. You can have two houses in the same taxing jurisdiction that have the same market value and very, very different property taxes. It's on its face unequal. Are you aware of that problem? You've never heard of it before.
No, I understand that problem. So what's your solution to fix it? Make it the state to decide? Is that what because that's what the Democrats are going to do. That's what she's explaining.
What's your solution?
My solution is to leave it alone and let local Democratic
You're fine with
municipalities.
I'm totally with the inequality that exists.
I'm totally fine with if that's the inequality and you don't know where it comes from and I don't know where it comes from. I will find out if there's an inequality where it comes from and we can fix it.
Where it comes from.
But having the state determine what our local property taxes are is communist. And I'm anti-communism. We need local Jesus Christ. You guys. Hey, I want to say this though. I believe in local democratic process. I believe that communities know if they want to increase their taxes, that they can vote to do that. No one will vote at this point to increase their taxes, their property. No one's going to do that. They're never going to pass this. So now they're going to bring it and centralize it with the state. To me, that's dangerous. It's not American. It is not fair to the taxpayers. And let the taxpayers decide this stuff. And let's fix our spending problem. We don't have a revenue problem. Again, we got a lot of money. We got plenty of money. You know it, $100 billion a year. We got it. we can
Jules,
fix
a
it.
couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about your work on the Joint Committee on Tax Expenditures?
Yes, so we meet not that often. It's usually around revenue forecast times. And we've had these conversations about taxes, and specifically about the CAT tax comes up a lot, which people are still concerned about, which is helping to fund our schools, a big part of the Student Success Act. What would you like me to
I
share?
want to know what's the role of that joint committee and, what are the measurable outcomes?
I think the role of that committee, and as I say, it's only met probably 4 or 5 times since I've been there. And we have long discussions with the economists about, the economic forecasts and revenue forecasts, and out-migration has been a huge conversation about people leaving Oregon for Washington and Idaho, and what that means for our workforce. Also, we had talked about demographics and how people the age of my adult kids are delaying having kids. So that also is, we're looking at workforce imbalance there. We have those types of conversations. And
I'm just wondering what would be the measurable outcomes that committee would produce, even if it hasn't produced them yet? What?
I think that would be
One-
that would be the place we would go if we were starting to talk about like real revenue reform. It would go through the revenue committees in the House and the Senate, and then with the Joint Tax Expenditure
One other
Committee.
question. Can
Yes.
you demonstrate either by a vote you've taken or a position you have your independence from the Democratic caucus?
Yeah, I voted no against the governor's housing bill
And you did so why?
because I was uncomfortable with the UGB expansion clause.
And you're still?
I am still, yes.
But you did vote for all the other housing bills. Just want that for
No,
the
actually, I
record.
didn't.
Well, they have like 50 to 20 there's a ton of housing bills that have come through since you've been a state rep. You voted for every single one of them. Big money ones too. Big money.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Well, I'm sure. And I know you know. Okay? There's not just one housing bill. That's
The
BS.
governor's housing package I voted against, and that was a big step to take. I was one of only, I think, 1 or 2 people that
It wasn't a big step. They had such a huge majority that she could get away with not. If they told her, if she voted against something that the Democrat caucus didn't want her to vote against, they'd have taken her out back and given her threats of even being funded for next re-election. I know how this works in Salem.
That's untrue.
Fair enough. It may not be true. But I'm telling you, I know how it works.
Well, you've
Seen it
you
done.
know how it works, but you're not there.
So you're saying there's only one housing bill? Okay, got it.
Can you demonstrate to us a place where, I'm sure there's multiple places where you've broken with the Republican Party orthodoxy?
Yeah.
You strike me as an unorthodox guy.
I'm pretty unorthodox. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. No, the thing that I think in general where I am in full disagreement with the Republican caucus leadership is that the Republican caucus leadership is gaining in the same way that the Democrat leadership is gaining in. They're making money, okay? They're making taxpayer dollars. They're literally, when you look at the Christmas tree bills that come out, there's usually a number of them through every session where they actually lay out who they're writing checks to. They're all getting checks to their C3s and C4s, okay? So, Tim Knoop, for example, he's got offered a deal with the State Communications Board, for throwing away 10 Republican senators. We've got, what's his name? Charlie Conrad, who voted for House Bill 2002, which also Jules voted for, which was the, state-funded transitioning surgeries for minors without parental consent. I mean, we had to fight him on the parental consent thing, but we got it. But Charlie Conrad voted for that as Republican. Now he's on the lottery board. I mean, the corruption in Oregon politics in the legislative level and at the executive level is over the top. It is historic. It is absolutely historic. It is a huge theft. When you look at who's writing the checks, who's getting these checks, it is billions and billions and billions of dollars for every crisis that they perpetuated over the last decade.
But it
And now
sounds like the bill that you're talking about is one where you're actually closer to the Republican Party orthodoxy on that one.
No, I'm not. The leaders are doing the same. Look, David Brock Smith was the chief sponsor of the windmill bill that just got, the companies just pulled out because of lack of support. This guy is being funded by one of the largest green energy players in the world. This Tuttle guy, right? And so it's just crazy to me. But these guys are weak. They don't want to go up against the Democrats. They don't want to challenge for the truth. They don't want to take out and say, look, here's who's getting the money. I've been doing that. That's what's gotten me where I'm at today, okay?
Is there a lawmaker on the Republican side of the aisle who you think is brave enough?
I think that, yes, here's the problem.
Boquist, Linthicum, somebody over that?
Well, yeah, but Linthicum, of course, but look what happened to him, okay? I mean, he's running for Secretary of State, but good luck.
He's running for a statewide office.
Okay, but he's not an incumbent senator, so that's the real issue. He's better used as an incumbent senator, but he's not going to be.
But Aaron's question is just, is there someone in elected office whose views come closer to yours?
There's a number of them, and they've all been elected by the caucus. You see, you have to understand what constituencies are.
So give us a couple of names.
A name would be great.
All right, Ed Deal's one of them. Dwayne Younker's one of them. We've got people running. We have Kerry Lopez. We have a lot of people across the state who are anti-corruption. We even have Democrats, some that are anti-corruption that I've spoke to. But here's the problem: they're not really elected by their people in their districts. They're elected by their caucus. They're elected by the unions. If you look at Jules Walters, she's got all the big endorsements. She's got all the union endorsements. She's got all the mayoral and local endorsements. These are all part of the caucus, part of their machine. And they don't know who, they don't care. They don't, you know what I mean? They're like, well, that's what I have to do. So it's all just a big system and a big machine. And you guys know this. You work in politics. You guys are journalists. You understand the machine. I do too. But I'm just saying, let's shine some light on that machine. And the Republican leadership is no different. They're in it for the wrong reasons. They're not leading very well. They're not exposing things that need to be exposed. I am. And that's why I'm here.
Where are you on the issue of choice?
I'm pro-choice. Go back in my record and look.
Yeah, no, I thought you were. I just couldn't remember.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing this with you guys. I'm always pro-choice. I'm pro-choice. I think there needs to be a limit. I think that it's absolutely ridiculous that we have, like, you can go full term the day before the birth of a child and have an abortion. I know not a lot of people are doing that, of course, because it's horrific. But why is that legal? And so we need to fix it. I think we need to do what Europe does, and we need to go to 16 weeks or some number where it's like, if it's, unless after that, then the health of the mom or something like that, we of course have to put that first. But I'm pro-choice.
What would be the first law you try to pass?
If my caucus is in charge, they'll try to do everything they can to not let me pass any laws.
Right, but what would be your highest priority as a legislator?
My highest priority as a legislator is to stop taxation, to stop the actual this bill, this 2025 transportation package where they're going to start increasing taxes again on Oregonians. That has to stop. I think we have enough money. We definitely have enough money. It's the job of the legislature to put these boundaries on government agencies and to demand accountability. And our whole legislature, Democrats and Republicans, have epically failed to do both of those things. And so the number one priority for me is the economy. It's Oregonians' money that they work hard for and that they earn. I want to make sure that it's going to be used efficiently, and I want to make sure that we put a stop on all new taxation. That has to stop right now. I would love to eliminate the cat tax completely. I would love to cut the OHA in half. Okay, it's $40 billion a year, and send that money to the schools if the schools are going to actually teach education instead of other weird nonsense. I think we need to really focus on what really matters, which is our infrastructure, our kids, right? And they're failing across the board. And Jules is just a cog in that machine. I don't think she's a bad person. I just think she's just a cog in the machine.
Do you feel?
Sorry, I think you are. I don't know. I
got it. Do you feel you're a cog in the machine? Why not?
Because she voted no on one bill.
I didn't ask you.
I know, but I said it anyways.
I noticed that. Your turn.
I think if you were privy to conversations I had in caucus, you would know that I'm not a party line rubber stamping person, right? So as a mayor, I've had to make really difficult decisions and a difficult council and with some difficult people that live in the city. And then other times, you just get to enjoy, your community. But there are times where I have to say, no, I'm not going to vote for this, or no, this isn't acceptable. I was one of the first people in our caucus to have the conversations about rolling back Measure 110 or making some fixes to Measure 110. This was all the way back in this last summer. Is that right? Yeah, before we went into the short session. I was back in with Bobby Levy in her district. She does a women's economic summit, so there was a bunch of electeds on the stage, and I was the first one to say, I think we need to fix it. It's failing us right now. We should have spent more money on setting up behavioral health and recovery services before we decriminalized some drug use, and it's time to take a look and see what we can do to do it better. And everybody applauded. So, and then that became part of the conversation when we got back to.
So
Yes.
if Ben believes that the highest priority is to reduce taxes, or at least try to put a brake on spending,
Yeah.
what's your highest priority? What's the biggest challenge the state faces?
I think right now, my focus is, and always is on working families and Oregonians. And yes, inflation is high. Everything is expensive right now. I do agree with Ben that we need to take looks at some of our agencies and where that money is being spent. And I do that work. I'm on the joint subcommittee for general government, which is, I'm sure you can tell, is a riveting committee. But I think you're right. We do need to hold agencies accountable, and we also need to be following the money when we send it out, and we need to set metrics and make sure that policies is being followed, and that the money's actually getting out to the door to where it's intended. And I just think that we have. The housing costs are too high. Everything at the grocery store is too expensive. Our roads are falling apart. It's really hard to access health care. I took my husband to OHSU in the emergency room for he was having with his knee. It was midnight, 2 in the morning. And they said, well, we don't know. I said, how long is it going to be before you get in? And it was packed. And they said, it could be anywhere from 2 hours to 12 hours. So I just packed him up and we went home. I didn't pack him up. We went back to the car and we went back home. And then went to the doctor the next day. But I just think we're ranking low in a lot of areas that I think we need to be working hard to lift ourselves out of those spaces.
I want you to focus just a little bit tighter.
Oh, okay.
Because you've mentioned a laundry list of things.
I know.
You're only going to be able to have the ability to impact one or two. If you were going to focus, if you were basically told by your leadership, identify the one or two areas in which this state is failing its residents and work on that.
I think,
What would it
I
be?
have a work group going right now for the piece that I felt was left out of the rollback to Measure 110, House Bill 4002, and that's primary prevention. So I have a working group going with we're trying to define and set into place what primary prevention is, and then we're going to hand it back over to the commission, the Annalise Adolph runs that was set up by the governor to help solve all of our addiction problems in the state. The second piece for me is access to childcare. So I've chief sponsored and we got the CHIPS Child Care Infrastructure Act. I don't know why I can't talk today. I'm sorry. The CHIPS Child Care Fund Act, and so we passed that in the short session. Everybody was amazed that it passed. And what it does is it draws down federal funds from the CHIPS Act for the semiconductor industry to provide child care for workers. And I think we need to be doing much more in that sphere, the early learning phase, like between birth and preschool, so that we can get people to work and have a more diversified workforce, especially women. And we leave $2 billion on the table in Oregon alone every year in economic development because of our lack of childcare.
One more question. Can you give the current governor a letter grade for her performance?
Oof. That's a tough one. I think she came into office right after COVID with some really big problems, and I think I will let her grade. I I don't know if I can. I'd have to think about it some more.
Well, I tell you what, we're
yeah.
gonna let Ben respond, because I have a feeling he's got a great.
I bet he knows what it
And
is.
then I'd like to come back and I'd like you to.
But you got to be able to grade your own boss, right?
Right, then I'd like you to come back and provide a grade. So
No?
Give you a couple seconds. to
Well,
think
a
about
letter
it.
grade is hard because it doesn't.
You give her a numerical grade, 1 to 100, that's fine, but we want a grade.
All right. Okay.
Ben?
I give her an F, no doubt about it. But I wanted to talk about the CHIPS Act, which I think is really interesting, and I'm glad that we agree on, understanding what Oregonians are going through, working families, as they like to say, or she likes to say. But the CHIPS Act was essentially welfare for Intel, and then 2 weeks after it went through, they laid off 10,000 employees, because I just don't think that the people who are in charge of our legislature, the leaders of the caucuses on either side, I think some of them do. I think Bonham's a good guy, but as far as leadership goes, it's kind of where I end.
You would not have given that money to Intel?
No, I mean, I would give money to Intel. I would vote for money to large corporations if it made any sense. But I wouldn't give them money for childcare and then for them to lay off 10,000 employees. Like, that's a bad deal. Okay, that's a very bad deal. So that ended up to be just a very bad deal. I think that what's really, 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 really key to understand here is that we have all this money coming into the state. We're highly overtaxed. Rents are high, yes. The cat tax is a huge reason why rents are high. Rent control is a huge reason why rents are high. Anytime the government comes in and sets prices, they're going to max out at those set prices. Because that's what entrepreneurs understand. They're like, well, I'm not going to go all the way to the max, because they don't know what you're going to do next year. So you're literally driving prices up with your policies and your policy platform and hurting Oregonians, and then giving welfare to Intel employees so they can have free childcare. Like, that's, to me, just totally senseless.
Jules?
Yes.
Grade.
Well, as I prefaced, I think that she came in at a difficult time, and she's passed some big pieces of legislation. I think it's going to be hard to grade until we see those come to fruition, which could be a decade, especially with housing and other proposals of hers. She's taking on the big issues, and there's a long runway for that. So I don't really feel comfortable grading her right now on what might be an A+ outcome at the end. But right now I would say probably a B.
Okay.
Could you guys each ask your opponent one question? We need to sort of wind this up. Ben, you're the challenge. Let's have you go first. Please make it a question that she can answer and not a statement.
Never thought of a question for you. Why did you vote yes on House Bill 2002?
What was that?
That was the bill that gave state taxpayer-funded abortions and taxpayer-funded sex changes for minors.
Because I believe that human beings have the right to choose their health care. They should not women should not have to go to a different state to try and get basic health care needs met.
These are for minors, though. That's the key part.
So again,
I'm
the question.
I'm answering that.
Okay.
And also, I think if you know any trans people,
I do.
okay, and if you know any parents of trans children, you know that they need health care sometimes. Excuse me. And so that's why I voted for it. I felt very strongly about it. Access to that care is hard. Going through that transition process is very difficult. So for you to just speak out like some of the vitriol you've spewed out, doxing teens, that poor girl at Hazelbrook Middle School, and you doxed her. That's dangerous for her and her family.
That was a boy. That was a male. So I doxed the male that beat up, but I didn't dox them because I didn't say anything about their information, didn't know a single word about them. I doxed the superintendent and the district because the district tried to cover it up, and I'm telling you, watch the news because it's coming out.
As a trans girl.
That means a male,
Let's let
right?
Jules finish
No,
answering the question you may have.
No.
So a trans girl is a biological male, is that correct?
No.
That's not correct. They're not a biological male.
No.
Okay.
Do you have a question for your opponent?
Do you ever get downtime to relax?
That's funny. No, I like your sense of humor. No, not really. Sometimes the only way I can relax is if we get out of town and then turn the phones off. But I work pretty much 24/7.
The fun question that we ask, we do a different fun question every cycle, but this question we're asking all the candidates, what were you like in high school?
What were you known for?
Best known for.
Were you president of the chess club? Were you the person
No,
who
I
dealt weed in the bathroom?
school newspaper. So
You were an editor
no, I wasn't an editor. I was a reporter
for the school newspaper?
for the school newspaper. Actually, my bachelor's degree is in journalism.
What high school?
Palisades High School in Los Angeles.
And what was the name of the newspaper?
Oh my God, it's been 50 years, so I'm trying to remember. No, 50,
Yes.
oh my God, like longer than that. No, it's not been 50 years, I'm 53. So, what was it called? The Tideline. Thank you.
There you go.
Oh my God, I knew I would get it. And so I'm known, so all my good high school friends, we all still get together, and I'm known for, when we were in junior high, we had one teacher, Mr. Stolberg, history, and every week we would have news quiz. And they all laughed, like, everybody had to be on Jules's team during news quiz so that we could win. And so, like, I was a total news nerd, so,
You were a current events junkie?
yeah.
Gotcha. And what were you known for in high school? Your head cheerleader?
Yeah, but
You know it.
I did date the quarterback. He was my boyfriend through high school.
There you go.
I wasn't too nerdy.
Okay.
I don't even know. I'm probably so obsessed when I was in self-obsessed when I was in high school. I probably didn't know what anybody thought about me, but I probably was. I was an athlete.
What high school?
I went to Benson.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. And what sports?
Football and basketball. Yeah.
What positions?
I was a fullback in basketball, and I was the center. Fullback in football. I was a center in basketball. Yeah.
Am I the first person to say you remind me of Pat McAfee?
The founder of McAfee?
No, Pat
No.
McAfee, the ESPN person.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't heard that. Maybe I've had.
So you played center for your high school basketball
Yeah.
team. How tall were you?
Same as I am now, 6 foot.
Huh.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
Well, I'm a fighter. So if someone was bigger than me and taller than me, I could take them out and keep them out from under the rim.
Okay. Did you foul out often? Did you get into technicals?
You think I never got a technical foul? It never happened.
All right. Thank you both for coming
Hey,
in.
thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
See you both.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck to you,
Thank you.
Ben.
Yeah, hey,
Always
good to see you too. Thank you.